Thank you. I will begin our questions today, followed by the ranking member. I now recognize myself for the purpose of questioning our witnesses. Secretary Byrd, I'd like to begin with you and discuss the coordination between the Florida Department of State and state and local emergency management officials. Would you share with us a bit about that coordination and how coordinating with local emergency management prepares election administrators across the state for incidents of severe weather?
Thank you, Chairwoman Lee, for the question, and certainly as my predecessor in Florida, you are no stranger to the issues of hurricanes in Florida. So at the county level, because that's where the elections are administered, we encourage the supervisors of elections to coordinate with their local county emergency management. Then, of course, we have emergency management at the state level. So as a storm approaches, and once we've ensured that all lives are safe and secure, then we can stream resources from the state level. We have resources pre-positioned throughout the state. We have individuals who are pre-positioned from our office in the places around the state, and then certainly in the areas where there's going to be a hurricane. With elections being critical infrastructure, we can surge resources to them. So if I'm in communication with the supervisor and whatever they need, from clearing a road to getting power back up and running to internet connection and service, whatever those needs are, because they are critical infrastructure, we can then work with state emergency management to work with local emergency management to get the resources up and running.
And in particular, those are some great examples. How does your office ensure effective communication? Because one of the things that typically happens in these kinds of storms is a loss of potentially cell signal, a loss of power. What can you all do to help ensure communication from state to local election officials, especially if those regular lines of communication are unavailable after a storm?
Certainly, we have satellite phones that are available to us in case communications go down. Fortunately, in Florida, because of our long history with hurricanes, much of the infrastructure is placed underground, which limits some of the ability for those types of communications to be knocked out. We're utilizing services like Starlink to be able to get resources to a supervisor's office. So those are some of the examples of how we maintain communication. And as I said in the answer to my previous answer, we have individuals that are pre-positioned around the state from our office to be directly communicating, to be boots on the ground in the affected areas.
And what other key lessons can other states learn from Florida, where election season so routinely coincides with hurricanes?
Once again, pre-positioning resources, tabletopping or game planning the scenarios, what's going to happen, and then really having that communication with the individual supervisors, so that we want to use a scalpel to pinpoint exactly what resources they need and provide. We want to make as few changes to our election system as possible. So we really want to take a targeted approach and meet the needs of that individual county. So in one storm, we may have a flooding event in one county, but it could be a power outages in another county. So there's going to be different needs, so it's not a one-size-all approach.
And Mr. Eggers, what Secretary Byrd just said reminds me of one of your comments in your opening statement about finding the right remedies and targeting those remedies to fit the needs that develop in a situation. Would you describe for us, please, the type of logistical problems that Hurricane Helene caused for your election procedures, particularly in Western North Carolina, and how you all adapted to meet those challenges?
Thank you, Chair Lee. The logistics were first and foremost communication, because we had no communication between the various counties and the state to address those items. So that was handled in a number of different ways, between the Starlinks being delivered, but also just by word of mouth, by folks going from one county to another. Our first emergency resolution, I had to inform a county board of elections that we had canceled several of their meetings on their behalf, and they said, good, we couldn't get anyone here to do that. So it's a process of building communication first and then building the infrastructure back so that you can get what's needed both through local emergency management, through state emergency management, and on up the chain. So logistics are the key for building back those precincts and those locations that are critical to our success.
Thank you, Secretary Eggers. I now